Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your attendance today, and welcome to the April 2023 meeting of the Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission. We appreciate your attendance today. At this time, we would like to have a prayer and a pledge, and I'd like to ask Commissioner Bill Cox to lead us. Please stand and move your hat.
I got a report this morning. Text Chris Devaney, and Heather came through her surgery fine, and she's recovering, so we appreciate everybody's thoughts and prayers. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you so much this morning for Heather's successful surgery, and ask for quick recovery and to bless she and Chris. We thank you also for the beautiful day, and especially for this agency of these great talented men and women that serve our state, for this fine commission, very deliberative commission. We ask you to bless everybody on the way home, keep them safe, bless our troops, bless our country. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Cox. I'd like to recognize our visitors today, and we do have some really special ones. First on the list, and that's really good, Jim Carmichael, an avid outdoor rider, retired from outdoor life and has written numerous books. Dear friend of mine, if you get a chance, stop and talk to him. He's a personal friend of Bill Ruger, one of his best friends. Just a true treasure that we have that lives here in the area. And his partner in crime, Michael Altizer, he's a writer as well, out and outdoor writer for several magazines, and has written several books. Welcome. Glad to have you guys today. Fred Moody, Commissioner Rhonda Moody's husband, Clay Young with the North American Caviar, and of course Clarence and Laura Dyes with an S. My brother, Kim Woods, that I grew up hunting and fishing with my entire life, introduced me to the sport. His girlfriend, Donna, my good friend, Mike White, which I've hunted with for numerous years. We have one boat captain here from yesterday, Derek Paduke. I think you'll hear a little bit about that later. We had a really great trip. And Mike Butler with the Tennessee Wildlife Federation. Okay. Danette, will you call the roll?
Chris Devaney, Jimmy Granberry,
Here.
Monty Ballou,
Here.
Stan Butt,
Here.
Wally Childress,
Here.
Bill Cox,
Here.
Chip Saltzman, Hank Wright,
Here.
Brad Box,
Here.
Rhonda Moody, Kent Woods, Greg Davenport,
Here.
Tommy Woods.
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Danette. Commissioners, you should have reviewed March minutes from our meeting at Buffalo Ridge. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, Bill Cox and Monty was a second. All in favor? Aye. Minutes approved. Announcements. I'd like to start with the Executive Director. Do you have any announcements?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
All right, announcements from the Commission. Commissioner Granberry?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to thank Tommy and Tammy Woods for their hospitality. They have gone just overboard on their hospitality, and we can't say enough, the fishing, the food, the driving back and forth from the airport. I mean, y'all really set the bar high, and I can't thank you enough. And I think if y'all saw Tommy yesterday when he introduced his family and his grandbaby, you can tell the love that he has for his family. I thought I was gonna have to take over the mic for him because he was getting broke up, but you know, that was special for me as a grandfather, and we just really appreciate y'all's hospitality, Tommy and Tammy.
You're more than welcome.
Second.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman. Second.
I'm truly humbled. Anyone else? Commissioner Butt.
I'd like to second what Commissioner Granberry said, and especially for Tommy's efforts to make our outing a success, and for Derek and his attention to detail, providing bait for us and seeing that we all had a great experience. And I'd also like to thank the ladies that have done an outstanding job for coordinating this effort and for the good food and the menu and everything that they've done. It's always a pleasure when you're in a facility like this to be able to enjoy everything that they've prepared for us. So a special thanks to them and for their efforts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Butt. Anyone else? Commissioner Childers. Thank you. And I will elaborate on our fishing trip. A lot of hard work went into that, and all these guys have jobs and other things to do, and they took their time out. And Derek, I'd like for you to thank each and every one of them personally from us. All right. And thank you for being here. At this time, we'd like to hear from the committees that met yesterday. I'll call on Wildlife Committee Chairman Hank Wright.
Thank you, Chairman Woods. Before we get into the committee business, just wanted to ask one other challenge or ask of the agency to look at for next year and come back to us maybe this summer or fall with some research on the viability and safety of nighttime predator hunting. I think there's been a lot of stakeholder input asking for that, and I think it's our duty and privilege really to research that and do so. So, Joe, I'll just challenge you with that and the agency, if your team would work with law enforcement to just, let's take a deep dive into that and see what the possibilities are for our stakeholders. And then the second thing, moving into the committee business, the Wildlife Committee met yesterday, Chairman Woods, on Proclamation 2302, 2303, 2304, 2305, 2306, and 2307. All of those were came through committee on agency recommendation without change, and we're going to refer those now to the full body of the commission to consider today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wright. I'd like to ask Chief Benedict to come and go over those presentations that were put before us yesterday.
Good morning, Commissioners. Can you hear me? Is that on? Okay. So I didn't change the presentation from yesterday to today, but I will go through the proclamations one at a time at the pleasure of the chairman. The first proclamation we asked yesterday for your consideration was Proclamation 23-02, statewide big game hunting seasons. And I'll go down to the very end here, the summary. The request was to add 2 elk hunt zones and 2 permits, and then change the youth hunt with the gun season to align with fall break.
Thank you, Chief Benedict. Commissioners, you've heard the presentation. Do we have any comments?
Move approval of Proclamation 2302.
I'll
Move.
second it.
So we have approval and we have a second. Are we ready for a vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Proclamation 2302, statewide statewide big game hunting and seasons and bag limits approved. Thank you, Joe.
Mr. Chairman, the next proclamation we have for your consideration is 23-03. There's a very simple change. I'll apologize for that. The change here is just the calendar date changes to update for the calendar. And then also at the bottom left here, you'll note that we're requesting a group application allowance for sandhill crane hunting.
Very good. Do I have a motion for approval for Proclamation 2303 from the full commission?
Motion to approve 2303 proclamation.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Proclamation 2303, migratory game bird season and bag limit approved.
Mr. Chairman, the next proclamation we have is the proclamation to establish the Crooked Creek Refuge in Carroll County. That's Proclamation 23-04.
Thank you. So do I have a motion for approval of Proclamation 2304?
Chairman, I would like to add, make an amendment to that proclamation, if I might. And you're going to have to bear with me, folks. I haven't even got into it yet. I should ask you to do this, Jimmy. My amendment would be to rename this refuge area Sergeant Lee Russell. Now, let me explain this just a little bit. Lee Russell was a young man that I've seen grow up. I knew his great-grandfather, I knew his grandfather, and his dad, Steve Russell, was a career law enforcement officer. He started out at Henry County Sheriff's Office and got shot in line of duty and almost killed Steve. He recovered from that and went on to be a state trooper. And rose to the ranks of lieutenant over Troop C in the 8th District for THP. He was a mentor to me as well. Steve was. I got on the highway patrol and had the privilege to work under Steve under a lot of details. He was my lieutenant, my sergeant, under a lot of different details that we worked together. Lee, his son, came along and graduated from McKenzie High School. To tell you just a little bit about him, he attended the University of Tennessee Martin, where he graduated in 2008. Before he graduated, he became a reserve deputy at the Henry County Sheriff's Office. And upon completion at UT Martin, his father, Steve, came to me and said, I want my son to start his career in law enforcement the same place I started, at Henry County. Would you hire him? I said, absolutely. So he was an absolute wonderful deputy. We sent him to the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy, where he graduated with honors. He came back. He actually flew our helicopter for us and worked as a road deputy for about 2.5 years working with us. Then he moved on to his actual dream job, is to follow in his dad's footsteps. He became a trooper with the Tennessee Highway Patrol in 2010. He graduated THP class 311, and in 2013 he was assigned to the West Tennessee Aviation Division for the Tennessee Highway for the Highway Patrol. He did a lot of different assignments, from vehicle surveillance to helping on pursuits, foot and car, search for lost children, adults, search and rescue. He assisted with high-risk search warrants, providing air cover And this was all over West Tennessee. He wound up working all over the state. He's received multiple awards, but just to name a few, was a multiple award winner for a THP Life Saving Award, the Governor's Highway Safety Office Hero of the Year Award, the Henry County Sheriff's Office Life Saving Award, as well as several merit awards. In August of 2022, he was involved in a fatal helicopter crash that claimed his life. He was 35 years of age. He'd been with Highway Patrol for about 12 years. He leaves a wonderful wife, Mandy, 2 children. He had a passion for law enforcement, he had a passion for duck hunting, like I do. I saw a lot of sunrises and sunsets with him. And he was just a great guy. I can't tell you. He was a lot better man than me. Next month, his name will go on the National Law Enforcement Memorial Wall in Washington. He and his family have given so much to the community. And he's just a wonderful guy. I can't tell you enough about Lee. In this short time, I hope to, with the help of Mr. Don King, to bring a video presentation to maybe show you a little bit in the months to come about his career and everything that he accomplished. But I would like to thank Mark Rich, TWR Officer Lieutenant Greg Barker, and several other Carroll County for helping bring this to me and talking about it and getting it to the point where we're at right now with it. So I would humbly ask the commission to name this refuge after Sergeant Lee Russell Refuge in his home county, Carroll County. I apologize. Thank you.
Commissioner
That's my
Blue.
motion.
Commissioner Blue.
Yes.
Thank you for that emotional plea, and it's tragic to see anyone lose their life, but when they're serving others and trying to help others and do good, it just makes it that much more tragic.
He was a good friend.
Yeah. So, so we have an amendment to Proclamation 2304, establish the Crooked Creek Refuge, and we'd like to change the name from Crooked Creek to the Lee Russell Refuge. Is that right? Sergeant Lee Russell?
Yes. Sergeant Lee Russell.
Okay, very
Refuge,
good.
I think.
So,
I'll second Mr. Blue's motion.
okay, so do we have any comment from the commissioners? Is there any comment from the public, not only on this proclamation, but I got a little ahead of myself, on the previous proclamations we discussed? Is there any public comment on those proclamations? Okay, hearing none, I'll accept the motion to approve Proclamation 2304 as amended. Do I have a motion? So moved. Do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. Proclamation 2304, establishing Crooked Creek Refuge and changing the name to Sergeant Lee Russell Refuge, passes. Thank you.
Thank you all.
I think we voted the way it was amended. I do. Yeah. All right, we need to vote on the amendment. So we voted on making the refuge, and now we're going to be voting on changing the refuge name from Crooked Creek to Sergeant Lee Russell. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. All right, Joe, 2305, please.
Yes, sir. 2305 is a proclamation that would establish the Otey Mills Refuge, which will be a management unit of North Cumberland Wildlife Management Area. I'll put the map up there.
Believe the committee met yesterday and voted to approve this. So at this time, I'll ask for a motion to approve Proclamation 2305. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments from the commissioners? Any comments from the public? I'll say, all those in favor of Proclamation 2305, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Okay, I believe we have one more from you, Joe. 2306.
Yes, sir. 2306 is the Wildlife Management Area Proclamation. I will put this slide up here as the summary slide. We made some recommendations to change some hunts on WMA's, new hunt at Milan Arsenal, a new hunt at Hiwassee, and then some new hunts at Buffalo Ridge Refuge, and then also hunts to those two just proclaimed refuges, rather.
All right. Look at something here real quick. Wildlife management areas. Proclamation 06. Yes, bottom of the first page. All right. Proclamation 2306, Wildlife Management Area, Public Hunting Areas. I think the committee met yesterday and voted to approve this and put it to the full commission today. So do I have a motion to pass Proclamation 2306?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay. Yeah. Public comment? Commission comment?
Yeah, I have, it seems to me there's some old legislation about raccoon hunting, and there's also some legislation that ties raccoon hunting to bear training, bear dog training. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask our esteemed council to research some of that and see if there's something we might streamline some of that, might want to change some of that to better manage some of our hunting.
Very good, Commissioner Cox. Chief Benedict, do you have something prepared for that today?
I do, at the request of the commissioner about raccoon season. That's a different proclamation that we didn't cover in our agenda, so I'm happy to do that. I recommend respectfully that we go
Yes.
through the proclamations,
Right.
and then we could share that request from yesterday at your pleasure.
Very good. Okay. Will you let us know the appropriate time and we'll play that slide, okay? Thank you.
Joe, is this proclamation, does it include the new hunts that we're proposing for Milan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I know there were some questions. Have y'all made any changes or any recommendations from yesterday?
I heard there was discussion from the commissioners
Well, I think we were looking to y'all. Jason, you want to comment, or?
You would probably want to vote on this first and then come back and ask if there's any questions. I think some of the commissioners had questions about the number of quota hunts on Milan Arsenal, so the staff have prepared to give you a response on that after you vote this through. You will do an amendment for that.
So you do amendment after you pass this, sir? Okay.
You're right, to do it before, but this will be a long time, so you'll.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, you'll come back and question and make a motion if you would. Joe, why don't you present, there were some commissioners that had questions about the number of quota hunts we had. Why don't you make a presentation on some different proposals or some different number of quota hunts that you all looked at after hearing those questions yesterday?
Sure, happy to do that. Sorry for the confusion in the process there. So yesterday, I apologize, I didn't have the exact numbers on hand of how we set the quota hunts. So the quota hunts for turkey, the number of turkey quota permits that we had recommended to you was based on 10,000 acres of forest land on a good WMA, a good piece of property. We would like to harvest about one bird per 200 acres. The quotas that we presented to you would be one hunter or one quota per 350 acres. I know there was some discussion last evening about this here and there, and an alternative for you to consider would be instead of a quota of 25, which would be 100 turkey hunters, we could go down to 80, and that would be 20 hunters per quota, and that would change the number of acres from the 350 up to 450. So that would create a little more conservative approach. I know Commissioner Blue had asked me about the word conservative approach, and I kind of balked at that. I didn't want to overstate that. So that would be a recommendation if the commission was interested in reducing the pressure on turkeys. To move from 25 quota per hunt to 20 would go down from 100 to 80 hunters. Now, that's not saying everybody would kill a bird, but that's the alternative that you might consider.
Thanks, Joe. I'd like to offer up an amendment to go down to 20 hunter, the quotas for the turkeys for the Milan Arsenal, as recommended by staff.
All right, we have a second, and we're ready for discussion on the amendment.
I appreciate that, and I agree with you. I think I like the conservative approach as well for this area. And it's our first year to take it over and to hunt it and to work with jointly the National Guard and Wounded Warrior Project as well. So thank you for this, Joe.
I've got a question, Joe. How did you, do you have an estimate on the population?
I don't believe
How
we.
did you kind of come to the 25? Sounds like, on that many acres count, sounds like a good number, but I don't have a huge problem with what they suggested, but how did you come with the 25?
I'm going to have to ask either Assistant Chief Wally Akins or Patrick Lemons, Program Manager. They were the ones dealing directly with our field staff as well as the general there on site.
Yes, sir. We met with the Army National Guard several times, and when we talked about the number of quotas, we took into account the number of forested acres, as Chief Benedict mentioned, and also based on experience from some of our staff that had worked at Fort Campbell military base. But that figured up to about a little bit less than 20, and we just thought, well, some may not show up, let's move it up to 25. Still giving people about 1,000 acres to hunt on per hunter, theoretically. So that's how we kind of came up with that number. The turkey population, we don't have exact numbers, but it is perceived to be very healthy, a lot of birds out there, but we felt it, if we started out conservative, and then in years to come, after we had some more hunts, we could reevaluate, and if we need to increase or decrease, we could do so then.
Is this the only turkey hunt on the place?
We have 4 turkey hunts for us. They do have we don't know for sure if it's a Wounded Warrior or just an ex-military hunt previous to our hunts.
How many hunters?
I think there was 15.
That's correct.
Yes.
How many turkeys did they take? What's the bag on that?
Well, they were allowed this year to kill 2 birds per hunter. So I think they harvested about 28 birds. Some of these birds were killed on a separate property just north of Milan Arsenal. It's around 7,000 acres. So instead of 17,000 acres we are wanting to hunt, there was those additional 7,000 acres that the military hunted on, or Wounded Warriors.
So what's the total number of acres that we're hunting on this turkey?
Is it 16,700?
It's 15.5.
15.5.
I mean, I'm not necessarily taking issue with the conservative approach and all that, but we've got TFWMA, which is about 7,000 or 8,000 acres, including the river, and flooded and all that up there. There's 25 on that quota. So here we've got 16,000 acres up here, and we've only got 25. So it sounds pretty conservative already. Okay, thank you.
We're also thinking of quality of the hunt too, so.
Read that in the record, yeah.
Just real quick. Just to sort of camp on what Commissioner Blue said, this is the first time we've done it. We do season setting every year, so we can make this adjustment next year, and we absolutely want quality hunts for our veterans and our wounded warriors. So I think if we take a conservative approach, even a little more conservative than what the 25 was, that next year we can bump it once we get some counts. So I would hate to, overhunt it too quickly, because it's not been hunted extensively for a long time like Wolf River. So that's my comments. Thank you.
So, just to clarify, Mr. Chairman, I think we need a second on the proclamation as referred by the agency, referred from the committee, and then at that point, you can vote on whether to add the amendment or not.
Second on the original proclamation.
So we have a second on the original proclamation. And now to amend that proclamation to reduce the number of hunters from what?
25 to 20.
From 25 to 20. So do I have a motion? I got a motion. Just vote on it. Yeah. So all those in favor? Proclamation 2306 has amended. Okay, we accepted the amendment. Now we're voting on the proclamation has amended. So Proclamation 2306 has amended. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. All right,
So
Joe.
I need to pause there, Mr. Chairman. I think there's a turkey amendment that we need to look at for the big game proc. Is that correct, Mr. Director?
To my knowledge, there is no amendment. Now, there was some questions in regards to turkeys, and that should have been done at the first proc if those questions wanted to come up. We voted and passed that, but if there's any questions or any amendments at the pleasure of the commission, we probably need to go back and revisit that proc if there's gonna be any recommendations for turkeys.
You're looking at me.
No, sir, I'm not. I just didn't want anybody to miss an opportunity if they have something.
I don't think.
I'm pretty much a sucker, but I'm not that big a sucker.
Good deal. Thank you, sir.
So do we need to revisit that? Did I rush through something that someone had a question? Okay, so I think we're okay. Good. All right, Chief Benedict.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Butt.
There has been a lot of discussion about the turkey season and the number of birds and a lot of references to science and as a commission, we're charged with considering the wishes of the staff and their recommendations, as well as the input that we receive from hunters. And a lot of conversation has been held around moving the season, and so all of that being considered, then I think to wait until next year and the continued input from staff and additional input from hunters, and depending on which side of the state and what time of the year and the weather and everything, I think turkeys behind ducks as far as conversation, has drawn a lot. And I think it needs to be said from the commission standpoint that all of that's being considered. We're not taking anything lightly. We're not making any knee-jerk reactions. At least that's the way I feel. And so at the recommendation of the staff, then I think they are keenly aware of all the discussion and comments that have taken place. And so with that being said, I'm not recommending anything other than I appreciate all of the conversation and the consideration and everything that's been taken. And so I think with the weighing in of the hunters across the state and of the staff and of particular interest from that standpoint, and I think when we do make decisions probably next year, then that'll be an opportunity for a lot of discussion and a lot of detail. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Butt. So Chief Benedict, please give the presentation on Proclamation 2307.
Yes, sir. This is the last proclamation we have. I did prepare some information about raccoons, as we mentioned previously, that I have available after this. So this is the statewide non-protected wildlife and species deemed destructive. And the changes we had for you were really cleanup. This won't affect folks that use our hog exemption permits. We're going to remove some expired language and then basically codify how we do designees already, allowing 10 individuals per calendar year. And for properties over 1,000 acres, they can have additional designees, 1 per 100 additional acres.
Very good. So Commissioners, you've heard the presentation relative to non-protected wildlife and species deemed destructive. Is there any questions or comments from the Commission? Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Is there any comment from the public on this proclamation? So hearing no comment or concerns, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Proclamation 2307 passes. Any other questions for Chief Benedict before he?
Yeah, I had one too.
I brought up yesterday changing raccoon season on public lands, and since yesterday I've talked to the staff. I'm sorry, I didn't know anybody ever had any trouble hearing me. There are some conflicts and unintended consequences with some East Tennessee counties, and that's the reason I've asked to have a little research on that. But private lands is different, and you brought some slides, I think, Chief Benedict, and I'm going, after he gets through, I'm going to try to amend it to make it a year-round raccoon season on private land.
Let me look at Mr. Denton in the back. Do I just continue here, or is it a second presentation? Thank you. So what we put together yesterday afternoon, I want to thank my staff for this work, is the current seasons that we have for raccoons. Just wanted to remind folks it's complex. I don't remember all the details all the time. So just starting at the top, the current season, hunting season, it's a 4 raccoon bag per night per person. It's 182 days from September to March 15th. Western and Middle Tennessee have an additional season. You might call this a summer season, from July 1st to September 14th. That's an additional 77 days. The reason there's the footnote at the bottom, the eastern counties, basically the eastern Grand Division of the state, does not have that summer season for concern over bears running coon dogs during when bear young are out there. We also have a trapping season year-round. There's no limit. We have a dog training season that's year-round where there's no take allowed. We also have this nuisance take of small game, which is allowed. And you might remember Colonel Darren Ryder shared that information a couple of years ago. If you have raccoons getting into your chicken pen or they're getting into your attic, you can dispatch those nuisance animals. So we just wanted to share kind of the pros and cons, for Commissioner Cox and other consideration. There would be a potential for additional take if you all voted to make the raccoon season year-round. We think it might be limited. It's kind of a hot time of year. This would be before and actually during turkey season, so there's a benefit to that. And also an increased hunter opportunity. There's 106 days right now, again, in that western and middle Tennessee where you can't hunt. Some of the cons there, not only would you be able to take raccoons during turkey season, but you'd be disturbing turkeys, the hens that are nesting, the poults. Once they get on the ground, there could be some roost disturbance that would affect survival overnight and those kind of things. There is a potential for illegal bear hunting, and again, that's part of the reason why those East Tennessee counties are exempt from that summer season. There's dependent young, and I think Roger Shields, our turkey program coordinator, made that clear a few times. Typically, I think this is probably the primary reason we don't have a raccoon season during this time period is there's dependent young for those raccoons. And then public opposition. You might recall during last year's season setting process, we got a letter from the Humane Society of the U.S. requesting data on our fur bearers. We know that they've been searching around for other areas, other states, and looking at the data they have or they don't have in this case. And then just public opposition by turkey hunters and other folks perhaps. So these are the pros and the cons. Again, the seasons that we have for take and training. I do have some slides. Should the commission consider making a change, I have some recommendations. I guess I can show that now just for consideration. Currently a possum season aligns with the raccoon season. We just request if you do make a change that you keep those seasons aligned. There is language now that allows for these private acts. There are some counties and cities that have special acts regarding raccoons. We would suggest leaving that in there and also retaining this East Tennessee closure in the Eastern Grand Division, and the current season is there just in case you did want to make that change. And then finally, just a note, it would be Proclamation 23-09, again, should you make a recommendation. But the agency doesn't recommend this change at this point. I'm going to go back to this slide here. Mr. Chairman, that is what we have for you today.
All right, I would say to address a couple of the things that you brought up, which are legitimate. The disturbance during turkey season, private landowners manage their own property. So if the private landowner hunts turkeys or allows turkeys or leases land or whatever, he's not going to allow dogs on there. So they kind of patrol that and take care of it. The purpose of this is to reduce the raccoon population, in my mind, because based on the study, predators are the #1 problem with the turkey population. So you need to choose. We're going to continue to have problems with turkeys while we improve habitat, or we're going to be proactive and try to help them with nest predation, which is the only predation we can take care of. I guess poult predation, but avian we can't do anything about. So I really think we're going, if we're going to address the turkey population, if there's a problem, this is a proactive step. So I don't really know why the agency hadn't recommended this, but I kind of sort of think you're dancing around public opposition, and I understand that, but some of that opposition might need to choose, do we like raccoons or do we like turkeys? So you kind of have to have we got way too many raccoons in most areas in the state, just by anybody's testimony. So, Mr. Chairman, I would submit an amendment to amend Proclamation 2207 fur bearers on private land to allow raccoon season hunting season year round. Is that good, Tori?
All right, Commissioner Cox, do I have a second to that amendment?
Second.
Stan Butt seconds it. Have discussion. within the commission? Commissioner Butt?
Council, is there any reason from a legal or statutory standpoint? Is there any consideration or legal reason from statutory standpoint that would be a problem with approval of this amendment?
There are two statutes at play here that really need to be reconciled. And so I took that as the charge a little bit earlier, is to look at this on public land. But since the motion's limited to private land, I don't believe that there's any sort of statute that is going to be a problem here at this point. Although I'll always have a caveat. I would like to do as much legal research as possible on this.
Commissioner Saltman?
So how many raccoons did we take last year?
Let me ask Michael McCord, our small game coordinator. He was looking at those numbers last night.
Thank you, Commissioners. So I don't have last year's numbers. We don't have a survey from last year, but we had a very detailed survey for the 19 and 20 season, the 2021 season, and the 21-22 season. And what we saw was for raccoon hunting during that time, our harvest fluctuated somewhere between 66 and 90,000 and was generally declining across those years for raccoon hunting. But what we also saw is raccoon hunters generally killed a raccoon for every other night they hunted. And I mean, my personal experience is, raccoon hunters hunt as a party. So we're generally dealing with 2 to 3 people in that party. And that party is killing, maybe 1 raccoon a night. If their dogs are very much counting with as many raccoons as we have on the landscape, they're just choosing not to kill raccoons. But what we did see, though, was over that same time period in 2019, we had about 30,000 raccoons that were trapped, about 55 that were trapped in 2021, and 21-22, we had 84,000 that were trapped. So
And that's on top of the ones that were...
That's on top of the harvest. So we're seeing with our hunter harvest is pretty much flatlined, but our trapping is really taking off. So I think that the big thing here is it's a whole lot easier to recruit new raccoon trappers than it is to recruit new raccoon hunters, because of if I'm going to raccoon hunt, I got to have a dog. A dog's not cheap, and I got to be up all night, run around the woods. Trapping, my barriers to entry are a whole lot lower, and I think that's where we'll really make a difference.
And I assume that 30,000 trap doesn't include the pest control guy coming to my house and getting it out of the roof?
No, that does not.
Do we have numbers on that?
Not off the top of my head. I could probably find that, but that wouldn't include, like, our surveys don't include exempt license types. So the guy that's trapping under a landowner license, he's not included in those numbers either.
Okay.
So a comment that you just made about it, that there is a problem that the coon hunters with dogs that hunt generally like to hunt with their dogs, and they're not gonna take all the coons because they wanna come back and hunt again.
They want to chase that same raccoon time and time again.
I get that, and that's part of the issue, but this will allow the private landowners to require, is to recruit and require hunters to kill the coons.
I mean, that's at the landowner's discretion.
Yeah, I understand, but that's what, we can't make the hunters kill the coons, but we can give them an opportunity for private land to manage his land and do that. So, I just think it would help where a guy wanted to manage his property and have more turkeys.
Question: do people coon hunt in the middle of the summer?
Generally, they're training in the middle of summer.
Okay.
And they may illegally take 1 or 2 if their counties are closed, but generally I mean, from a fur perspective, it's not a thing to do.
So it looks like to me that if I wanted to be efficient at removing raccoons from my property, I would probably trap them.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Wright?
Thank you, Chairman Woods. Just a question, it could be more for law enforcement, but if I want to trap, that's a year-round opportunity. Is that correct?
Correct.
And if I want to hunt, in most counties, it's about a 10-month opportunity.
259 days to be exact.
But under depredation provision, I could hunt all year on private land. So the amendment was to hunt on private land, but under depredation, law enforcement, can I remove raccoons through hunting? Can I choose my method on private land?
Yeah, under the current destruction of disposal of wildlife permit 74-115, that would allow you, if you've got something, let's say, destroying something on your property like chickens, you could take those. Well, that
That's
goes
a
down a different
legitimate
road.
question.
But
Asking for a friend.
the way I would describe it is if you're a landowner and you have destruction of your property, you have the legal means to take care of it with 70-4-115.
Do you have to get a special permit to do that?
No, you do not. If it's big game, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, just, I guess in my mind that, the peak, most of the breeding season, the rearing of young occurs during that 2.5 month respite that they have, and the optics of that, and just personally don't like it. And I think as a landowner, we've got plenty of opportunity to control raccoons through trapping all year and hunting 10 months in most counties. I don't see it as making a big move in the needle, and the negatives outweigh the positives to me, but.
Thank you, Commissioner Wright. Is there any other questions from the commission? Is there any questions from the public? Comments from the public?
Mr. Chairman, based on the depredation option that landowners have, based on the depredation option that private landowners have, that I was unaware of and had not considered, that now is public information, I withdraw my motion.
Withdraw my second.
All right, motion withdrawn. Thank you. We'll move on to Fisheries. And Chairman of Fisheries, Monty Ballou, I believe you guys met yesterday.
Yes, we did, Mr. Chairman. Fisheries voted on Proclamation 2301 yesterday after our chief, Mark Thurman, advised us on this proclamation, and it did pass unanimously. So at this time, unless Chief, have you got anything else to present on it?
It's the same, but we'll go through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go through it if you would, I guess, Chief.
Thank you, Committee Chair Blue and Commission. So, yesterday the committee passed Proclamation 2301, commercial take of fish and turtles. Cleaned this up a little bit, but still left in bold our main changes. In Section 1, we're opening up the Mississippi River from the state line to River Mile 745 to the harvest of silver carp, bighead carp, and paddlefish. Also opening up McKellar Lake, and that's Section 1. In Section 2, we are proposing to allow 5-inch mesh gill nets on Pickwick Reservoir, and those are the main proposals in Proclamation 2301.
All right, Commissioners, having heard the presentation relative to commercial take of fish and turtles, is there any questions or comments?
Just one comment, Chairman Woods, if I may. Sorry to take
Sure,
so much
Commissioner Wright.
microphone time. Yesterday, Commissioner Cox mentioned that he gave accolades to a lot of people in the private sector and within the agency for making this happen. But the truth of the matter is, it wouldn't have happened without his idea and spearheading it, so it added some opportunity. And just want to thank Commissioner Cox, because he didn't think of
It's
himself.
not the way it's written, very good. So do I have a motion to approve Proclamation 2301?
Motion to approve 2301.
Thank you, Commissioner Blue. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Davenport. Is there any other discussion from the commission? Is there any comment or discussion the public would wish? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Proclamation 2301, commercial take of fish and turtles.
Ask Mark a question real quick. Hey, Mark, while you're still up there, for the public that might be watching, and for me, we had a state record broken this week or the last 10 days. Can you expand on that a little bit for the public watching at home?
Are you referring to the paddlefish record?
I'm not sure, I think.
Yes, we did. We recently had a new paddlefish record from, I think, the upper end of Cherokee Reservoir up near Johns Veer. And I believe it was 114 pounds. Really nice fish. But yeah, it's quite a fish. How much? Oh, thank you, Matt. 149. Sorry, I dropped that.
We were looking for that yesterday in a striper, but we just,
Did you? You didn't come close.
We hooked a 220 pounder, but it was me.
Gotcha.
Considered a citation?
Yeah, I think so.
Would you explain the definition of citation?
Sure. So for all of our sport fish, we have length categories that, as you get to the trophy categories, those become citation fish. And if you look at our TARP program, Tennessee Angler Recognition Program, you catch a citation fish, you can apply and have your fish recognized. Now, I think we may have had one caught yesterday. Maybe a smallmouth. We had two. Awesome.
Smallmouth and a brown trout.
Excellent. So, yeah, I encourage anybody that's out there fishing to check out the TARP program. It's a neat thing. You get a certificate, and it creates those memories around fishing.
Thank you for that. I just wanted that brought to the public's attention, and I think that's an important aspect of angling and encouraging those to get out and fish. And may not mean a whole lot at the time, but down the road, years later, looking at that certificate, if you appreciate it very much, then I think that's something that a lot of people would appreciate.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, Chief Thurman. I think yesterday, the Boating and Law Enforcement Committee met. Chairman Childers, could you give us the results of that?
Mr. Chairman, the Law Enforcement and Boating Committee met yesterday. We would like to refer Proclamation 23-08 as presented by the agency to the full commission for consideration.
Thank you, Commissioner Childers. Lieutenant Colonel Grandstaff, could you go over that proclamation, please?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. This is a manner and means of hunting and trapping Proclamation 2308. It's some language to clean up a little bit on the clarification of weapon rules during the youth deer bear hunts, and also urine-based deer scents, updated verbiage to align with the manufacturers and its no expected impact to the hunters. And we recommend passage of Proclamation 2308.
Thank you. Commissioners, having heard the presentation relative to the manners and means of hunting and taking and trapping, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Commissioner Cox and Commissioner Butt have a second. Do we have any discussion?
I have a quick question. Go back one slide, please, Dave. It says clarify clarification of weapons rules, what is that? Either I wasn't listening or,
We had some question about, especially during the late youth deer hunts. There were hunters that were out on those days that were small game hunting, let's say coyotes. And so they were hunting coyotes on the same day that the youth hunters were out there, and they were using rifles on those same dates. So we just wanted to clarify that and give direction from our agency to the officers and to the public that they would not.
it might be cheating.
Well, on those days, it was difficult to say. We're clarifying that the youths were the only ones that were able to be out there on those days with rifles hunting.
I just wanted to restate. Thank you, appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Any questions or comments from the public? All those in favor of Proclamation 2308, say aye. Aye. Proclamation 2308 passes. All right, I think at this time we need a short 10-minute break, and we'll come back and finish up. Thank you. All right, welcome back, everyone. I'd like to recognize a couple of guests that come in late. Dr. Mike Jones and Richard Brown from the Tennessee Falconries Association. We welcome you. Thank you for coming. Let's see. At this time, I'd like to call Deputy Director Brandon. Where's he at? Yeah. Weir to the podium to go over future rulemaking hearing that we'll have.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. I've already been put on notice since I'm last. I don't know if they saved the best for last or they're hoping that y'all will be tired enough to not ask me any questions while I'm up here and be ready to go. And Commissioner Moody has already started her timer. So this is just going to be a very high-level preview. We have 5 rule amendments and then 2 new rules. And so today I just wanted to let you know what's coming. We'll have the rule hearing in June. So today is just some introductory material in general to tell you what it's about. First, we have two here, the taxidermy rule and boating certificates rule. Taxidermy 1660-01-10. So related to the records that the taxidermists are required to keep, this basically changes from requiring a TWRID number or confirmation number to and. So they'd be required to have both of those pieces of information. The hunter has to get that when they harvest the animal anyway. They have it on their phone or in their pocket, so it'll just take them another second to document that and give us a better record for our officers' inspections. Rule Chapter 1660-02-01 is boating certificates or registrations. The only change there is to add, make it allowable for a co-registrant on a boat, not just a single owner. If there's an instance where they would need to have someone else on the registration, this allows that. The live wildlife rule, 1660-01-18, clarifies, makes changes and adds to the Class 1, 2, and 3, and one addition to Class 5. Now, just to go over the different classes of wildlife, Class 1 are animals that are inherently dangerous to humans, like a tiger or a venomous snake. Class 2 are native species in Tennessee. Class 3 are exotic farm and pet industry species. And Class 5 are species inherently dangerous to the environment. So the changes we would like to make, Class 1 are additions. We want to add the macaque monkeys, Komodo dragon, and those hyena species to the Class 1 wildlife, which would be dangerous to humans. Some of those have started showing up in the pet trade. You've had reports of them being imported or attempted to be imported into the state, so we want to put them in Class 1. The next 2 are both having to do with venomous snakes, but they're rear-fang venomous snakes, and we've never documented a human injury or death from these. So we want to reclass from Class 1, because all venomous snakes are included in Class 1 currently, reclass Tennessee species of rear-fang venomous snakes to Class 2, since they're native species, and then Class 3 reclass any other North American native species. So in the Tennessee species, that would include like the eastern hognose snake, eastern garter snake. A lot of folks don't know it. A lot of folks have even had them as pets, but they actually have venom ducts in their rear fangs. And the other North American ones that are already in the pet trade would include western hognose snakes and I believe it's Texas and California garter snakes. So a lot of folks have them. They're in the pet trade already. This just changes them from Class 1, which would be prohibited, to Class 2 and 3. And then finally, Class 5, the 9-banded armadillo, we would like to add that to Class 5. That, again, is a species considered injurious to the environment. They're known to carry leprosy. This would make it so that only a zoo would be allowed to possess armadillos, and they could not be rehabbed and released into the wild or transported and relocated, spread. The bird rule, Rule 1660-01-02, we want to make one change relative to West Sandy, WMA, to also allow for online blind registration. It would put it in line with the Reelfoot blind application registration process for those permanent registered blinds. It also would give them more time to get that done. So this way they can do an online registration and online, I believe, to do their sign-ons too. Is that correct? Okay. And then the other thing with the bird rule, we're going to remove provisions related to the falconry rule. Falconry is currently contained within the bird rule. We're going to pull that out and make a standalone rule on raptors, which we'll see. On our WMA rule, 1660-0114, the change would restrict the locations for the use of alcohol on WMAs. They would be in designated areas only. That would be areas designated as campgrounds by the area manager, or those waters that border the WMA or contain within the WMA, so long as you're not engaged in a hunting activity. Obviously, the Commission's aware of the issues that we've had surrounding alcohol and OHV use on some of our areas. Rather than just trying to address this issue and potential problem on other areas, rather than just addressing it on one, we just wanted to put it on all WMA statewide. Our first new rule has to do with the sale of forestry products. The proposed chapter would be 1660-0136, Rules and Regs governing the sale of forestry products. Last year, Public Chapter 798 required that we shall comply with all of TDF's processes when conducting timber sales, and that would include the advertisement, the bid process, and all that stuff. So the proposed rule sets forth to the public how we'll manage those sales. Again, it includes the types of sales, whether it's a salvage cut or a general timber sale, the bid process, the requirements there, the advertisement, the notice period, and things like that. It doesn't really change that drastically the way that we've operated, but it puts it on a formal public record and advertisement on our website and everything like that, so that we're in compliance. The final new rule deals with raptors. Again, we're pulling the falconry portion out of the current bird rule. That proposed rule, the new one, would be 1660-0137. Again, moves that falconry language out. And I didn't realize until I'd communicated with some falconers over the last year, these other categories, we want to move this rule, the standalone raptor rule, to more closely mirror the federal regulations, the Code of Federal Regulations. And it already addresses abatement, which would be like hazing, harassing, killing other primarily bird species that are problems in areas using falcons. Education programs or propagation. Those are not all considered falconry. Falconry is just simply the act of hunting with those falcons. So what this will do is better define these different categories and closer align all of them to the current existing federal regulations. On all of these rules, the draft rules will be filed no later than May 1st. Our target for those would be by the end of next week. So what that means, in addition to attending the public meeting in Nashville in June where we'll have the formal rule hearing, members of the public can and are encouraged to submit their comments at the email address. For the falconers, I've also talked with some of them for the falconry rule. I'll be glad to share a copy of that with you once we get it filed next week too. That email that you can see there, if you want to take a picture or screenshot, that'll be monitored by our legal team. And also, like I said, once he has those filed, hopefully by the end of next week, definitely by May 1st, they'll be on our website where you can view that as well. With that, hopefully I was fast enough for you. That's all I have.
Sure enough.
Questions?
Anyone have any questions for Deputy Director Weir? All right, hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Yesterday, I believe Chief Benedict mentioned something about a video or a trailer for future turkey season. Could we ask somebody to play that now?
Here at TWRA, managing wildlife is at the heart of everything we do. Our mission includes managing populations, conducting research, and providing public education that supports the wildlife and the Tennesseans who hunt and enjoy our beautiful natural resources. Today, we are excited to announce a new approach for increased stakeholder engagement, transparency, and science-based evaluation in deer and turkey management. Each year, the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency works with the Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission to set hunting and trapping seasons and regulations that provide the best possible balance between wildlife populations and harvest. Deer and turkey hunting are long-standing Tennessee traditions, but as we face challenges like a growing urban population, habitat loss, and the threat of wildlife diseases, it's now time to broaden wildlife management from just focused on wildlife populations to also considering stakeholder values and biological data in a structured season setting process. Right now, we are working with more than a dozen stakeholder groups and experts at Tennessee Tech University to understand and prioritize the values, opinions, and attitudes of hunters, landowners, and residents of Tennessee, and develop management objectives for these two important species. Our new approach, with a foundation of stakeholder input, will improve management and monitoring on a regional scale, creating more flexibility to tailor management guided by science from the ground up. Starting this summer, the agency will be introducing these priority objectives, unveiling new deer and turkey management units, and providing more information to the public. Once that work is complete, next season, in the spring of 2024, TWRA will be proposing the final deer and turkey hunting regulations for each unit during the season setting. Deer and wild turkey are among our most valued wildlife species. Together, we can protect, manage, and conserve their populations for countless generations of hunters.
Well, that sure is exciting news, and we appreciate the hard work and effort that's went into that. I know it's a continuous process. Is there any other business from the commission?
Yes, sir, I've got one thing. I would like, we were at breakfast this morning, and next month we're going up to, with some of the agency guys, we're going up to look at the OHV area at Royal Blue, and it seems to me in our discussion that we may have some liability exposure up there, and Tory thinks we might be protected by legislation, but I'd like to ask him to research that between now and next month and let us know, because if somebody dies up there, are we have any liability at all, or are we protected from but it just seems like that might be a problem.
Thank you, Commissioner Cox. Do we have any comments from the public? Would anyone else like to speak? All right, hearing none. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner
I'd
Blue.
just like to say, since I've pulled my life back together and I can talk plainly now, I would like to say thank you for the kind comments, and the Russell family will love this, and it will be a great thing. And thank you to my fellow commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Blue. So the chair will entertain a motion to dismiss, to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Adjourned.